It had been 3 weeks since I moved back to my hometown, a sleepy lakeside community nestled in the hills of Montana. After 20 years in the force, including a rough stint as a detective in Chicago, I'd come home. Peace and quiet were long overdue. I figured accepting the job as police chief in this one-station county was the ticket. The house I inherited from my late uncle sat on 40 acres of beautiful pasture, complete with a private fishing pond and a herd of cattle grazing peacefully. It should have been paradise. But I wasn't even unpacked when trouble showed up in the form of one tightly wound, clipboard-wielding neighbor, Karen Milbour. Every town's got one. But this Karen had elevated HOA power tripping to an Olympic-level sport. She knocked on my door within 48 hours of my arrival, waving a printed pamphlet about lawn conformity and fence color coordination. I humored her with a polite nod and a fake smile, but I knew she didn't recognize me. She clearly didn't read the county newsletter that announced my return and my new title. Fine by me. That first visit turned into a weekly intrusion. She'd leave notes on my gate about unauthorized vehicles, my patrol car, unregistered animals, my cows, and suspicious visitors, my cousin Mike visiting from Missoula. I kept letting it slide, chalking it up to an overzealous personality and a desperate need for control. But then came the fish. I noticed my pond looking emptier than usual. So, I set up a trail camera just to see if maybe an animal had been picking them off. What I caught was more shocking. Karen, in a floral wide-brimmed hat, sneaking in through the back fence with a net and a cooler. She wasn't just fishing. She was taking full baskets of trout from my pond. And not just once, every other morning she'd show up like clockwork, hauling away what amounted to hundreds of dollars in fish. And then, like salt in the wound, she posted on the community Facebook group about her organic local trout dinners. I was furious, but I waited. Then the cattle went missing. 3 of them. I found tire tracks leading from my back gate into the woods. My property line butted against county land, and those cows didn't wander off. They were herded. I dusted off my badge, clipped on my belt, and loaded the evidence into a file. Karen had no idea who she was messing with. The sun rose over the hills like any other morning, casting golden light across the pond where Karen had been poaching trout for weeks. This time, though, I was ready. After confirming the trail cam footage, I installed a second, more discreet camera closer to the water's edge, hidden inside an old log. If she came back, I'd have crystal clear footage, more than enough to charge her with trespassing, theft, and violating local game laws. But something told me fish weren't her only prize. The cattle theft gnawed at me more. Those weren't just animals. They were part of the land, my inheritance, my family legacy. Taking them wasn't petty, it was personal. I drove into town under the guise of running errands and made a quiet stop at the sheriff's office. Though I was technically their boss, I didn't want to stir the pot too soon. Deputy Ray, who'd worked this county for over a decade, looked up when I walked in. "Chief," he said, tipping his hat. "You settling in all right?" "Not quite," I replied. "I've got a poacher and a rustler on my land." "Might be the same person." He chuckled. "Let me guess. Karen Milbour." "Bingo." Ray leaned back. "You're not the first she's tangled with, but no one's ever had solid proof." "Well," I said, sliding a flash drive across the desk, "now we do." Ray plugged it into his computer, and as the video played, his smirk faded into a scowl. "That's blatant theft." "And this," I added, tossing a small evidence bag containing a distinct brooch I'd found caught in the barbed wire at the back gate. Silver, shaped like a peacock, with her initials on the back. Right where the cattle tracks began. Ray nodded slowly. "She's got money and connections, but she doesn't know you're wearing the badge now. This could be what finally brings her down." Back at the ranch, I started planning. I moved the remaining cattle to the east pasture near the fence she'd been cutting through. I put up fresh signs, "Private property. Trespassers will be prosecuted. I even installed motion-triggered floodlights and an alarm. I also made sure to leave a cooler near the pond again, empty this time, just to see if she'd bite. Sure enough, the next morning, the alarm triggered at 5:12 a.m. I raced out, already in uniform. As I rounded the pond, there she was, scooping trout like she owned the place, cooler already half full. She froze when she saw me. Recognition slowly dawned on her face. "I thought I told you," she began. I raised my badge. "You're under arrest, Karen." Karen's face drained of all color when I held up the badge. Her jaw worked like she wanted to say something clever, but all that came out was a stammered, This is outrageous. Not as outrageous as stealing livestock and poaching fish off a police chief's land," I said coolly. "Put the net down, Karen." She dropped it slowly, like it might explode. I cuffed her gently but firmly. "You have the right to remain silent. Though I doubt you'll exercise it. You have no idea who I am," she snapped as I led her toward the truck. "I'm on the HOA board. I know the mayor." I snorted. "That'll come in handy. He'll be one of the witnesses." Back at the station, Deputy Ray couldn't hide his amusement. He'd prepped the holding room and processed her without incident, though Karen kept demanding a phone call every 10 minutes. I gave her one. She used it to contact her lawyer, and her Facebook followers. An hour later, the community page exploded. Police abuse. Unlawful detention. Chief targets woman for walking her dog. That last one was particularly creative, considering she never brought a dog once. The backlash came swift, but so did the support. Dozens of locals chimed in with stories of Karen's behavior, fines for the wrong mailbox color, threats over garden gnomes. One guy even claimed she'd reported him to child services for excessive trampoline noise. I'd stumbled into a powder keg. But what sealed it wasn't just the videos or the brooch. It was what she had in her SUV. Deputy Ray and I conducted a legal search after the arrest, and inside we found cattle tags, 3 of them, each matching the ID numbers of the missing steers. Alongside them, a ledger of transactions. She'd sold the cattle under the table to a friend's organic meat co-op 3 counties over. It was fraud, grand theft, illegal hunting. And yet, when we laid the evidence on the table, she just sat there, calm, smug, sipping water from a branded HOA thermos. "You think people are going to believe you?" she asked, one brow arched. I leaned in close. "I don't need them to believe me. I've got surveillance footage, cattle tags, GPS logs, and an entire county tired of your nonsense." She blinked but said nothing. "We'll be transferring you to county jail this afternoon," I added. "Until then, enjoy the accommodations." As I left the room, Karen called out, "This isn't over." I smiled without turning around. "For you, it just started." Karen's trial came quicker than anyone expected, thanks to the mountain of evidence, photos, video footage, GPS pings from her SUV, and the very vocal testimony of over a dozen fed-up neighbors. The district attorney didn't even blink before filing charges: unlawful hunting, theft of livestock, trespassing, destruction of private property, and fraud. She faced serious time. Her attorney tried to spin the narrative that Karen was confused about the property lines, that she had verbal permission from the previous owner, my late uncle, and that the cattle tags were misplaced antiques. It was laughable. I testified, calm, factual, professional. Ray testified, too. So did my cousin Mike, who had seen Karen lead cattle toward the rear fence under the guise of a wildlife rescue. Several neighbors followed, adding their horror stories to the mix. Each one built a clearer image: Karen wasn't just a power-hungry HOA tyrant. She was a habitual liar with a dangerous sense of entitlement. When the jury came back with a guilty verdict on all counts, there wasn't a single surprised face in that courtroom, except Karen's. She was sentenced to 18 months in county jail with an additional $20,000 in fines and restitution. But that wasn't even the most satisfying part. The community turned on the HOA board. Within a month, a petition to dissolve the HOA had gained traction. Hundreds signed. At the next town meeting, residents voted to disband it entirely. Gone were the days of lawn inspections, mailbox audits, and surveillance by Karen. People took back their yards and their lives. As for Karen, she filed 3 appeals. All denied. The organic meat co-op that bought the stolen cattle faced their own legal troubles and shut down. Turns out they'd been skirting USDA inspections, too. I went back to tending my land, fishing in peace, and letting the cattle roam without fear of being liberated. And the best part? I actually got to do what I came here to do: serve this town with real integrity, protect the community, and restore trust in law enforcement. One corrupt HOA dictator at a time. Some locals started calling me Sheriff Karma. It stuck. Every once in a while, I drive past the old Milbour place. It's empty now, her property seized and listed for sale. The garden gnomes are gone. So are the security cameras she once pointed at neighbors' windows. The air smells cleaner. The lake sparkles brighter. And the fish? They're back, because the only thing fishing these days is me. If you enjoyed watching Karen get caught red-handed stealing fish and cattle, by the new police chief, no less, don't forget to smash that like button. Drop a comment below if you've ever had to deal with a crazy HOA member like her, or if you'd like to see part 2 of this wild story. And of course, subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next showdown. Justice is just getting started.